This is a Mercedes-Benz CL from the early 2000s, and it's a two-door GT version of the W220 S-Class limousine. And over the years, this has received some criticism for its high maintenance costs and also lacking build quality when it came to the materials. But I think everyone is wrong, because this is my 2002 CL500 and it has been one of the best cars I have ever owned. And depending on the condition, you can now pick one up for around $25,000. So in this full detailed review, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about the CL, and I'm also going to briefly talk about my ownership experience to answer the question, should you buy a CL from this period? And of course, before we start, please like, share, subscribe, and let's get straight into the video. Let's start off with a brief overview about the CL. This was launched at the Geneva Motor Show in 1999 and referred to by Mercedes as the C215 series. And this was the type of vehicle that competed with the Jaguar XK8 and the Aston Martin DB7. And of course, being a two-door version of the S-Class, the CL came with high-tech innovations like active body control, bi-xenon headlights, a radar-based autonomous cruise control, and GPS navigation with an integrated onboard computer. And a lot of influence of the C215, like the design and active suspension, was previewed on a self-driving Mercedes F200 concept that was unveiled in 1996. And specific to Australian specifications in 2002, there were 3 different versions to pick from between this, the CL500 5-litre V8, the CL600 5.8-litre V12, and the AMG-tuned CL55 5.4-litre V8. And moving on to options, CL customers had a wide selection of external colours to pick from, alloy wheel designs, interior colours and wood grain inserts, and a selection of standalone options which included things like radar cruise control, voice recognition, a Bose sound system, seat trim in full Napa, and finally the AMG styling package. And if we now move on to the design, the external colour of this example is finished off in brilliant silver metallic, and this was styled by Bruno Sacco, who was the lead designer at Mercedes-Benz from 1975 up until 1999, making this one of his final creations. And if we look closely at the design, as you can see, this generation CL features bi-xenon headlights, which was not only advanced technology back in the early 2000s, the headlights also automatically turn on at night. And you've also got integrated headlight washers down on that lower section. And over in the center, you get an open air vent with chrome trim and a Mercedes star in the middle, additional air vents and halogen fog lights. And if we now take a look at the side, this particular CL features a set of twin 5-spoke alloy wheels that are wrapped around in thick profile Pirelli tyres, and at the front, a ventilated disc brake setup and a solid disc brake setup at the rear. And looking further down the side, you also get additional chrome on that bottom section, a soft closing function for the passenger and driver, a power operating sunroof with tilt and slide function, an aluminium roof with magnesium door frames, and of course the classic pillarless windows and door frames. But it is worth noting that the doors are long, but thanks to these well-engineered door hinges, this is going to allow you enough access to climb inside without impairing any space between yourself and the vehicle next to you. And that C-pillar design is a direct reference to the 1960s Mercedes-Benz W111 Coupe. And if we now take a look at the back, the CL gets a set of rear halogen combination lights that look very similar to those that are found on the W220 S-Class. And as you can see, the inner parts are fluted, which is a design feature to prevent snow buildup in cold climates. There's also a third brake light up the top here, more chrome in the middle section, and a CL500 badge to signify that this is the V8 version. And if we look lower down, a titanium stainless steel dual exhaust system, which does sound pretty good, so take a listen. And as always, let me know your feedback on the CL500. Has it aged gracefully? Does it look outdated? You let me know in the comments down below. Let's now move on to the interior. So before you climb inside, the CL comes with a remote key. The central locking is also vacuum controlled, and that works in conjunction with the self-closing doors and boot. And finally, the key itself goes into the ignition. Now, starting off with the presentation, Inside, this looks very similar to a W220 S-Class on which this is based on, and that means there are some plastic buttons over on the top here and on the doors, which does make the interior look a little bit outdated. So compared to this car's predecessor, some might argue that the C140 was much better in terms of fit and finish. And moving on to build quality, the steering wheel is finished off in leather and complemented by the Bell walnut timber. The dashboard is also finished off in leather, and that also extends onto the doors, the grab handles, and where you rest your elbow. It is also nice and soft down on that lower section. The roof lining is also finished off in this soft fabric, and in the middle here is also finished off in leather. And now moving on to comfort, the steering offers both electric, tilt and reach adjustment. There's automatic dual zone climate control, and the seats offer electric adjustment with memory, and they can also be heated and cooled. You also get electric lumbar support, and this button here is to raise and lower the rear sunshade. And if we now move on to the tech, all of it runs off this onboard Command Operating System 2.5, and the screen itself is quite small, and you've also got an array of buttons. And in terms of key features, if I press this, that goes into a telephone. You also have AM and FM radio, and you can also adjust the sound, as this does have a really good 7-speaker sound system. You also have a CD player, and if I click it again, that will go into your CD changer, not to mention the tape deck, and this button is to open the small section. You also have a television, which is analog and therefore doesn't work as we only receive digital. This button here is to shut off the screen, and if I go into this menu, this comes with inbuilt satellite navigation, and this also integrates within the gauge cluster, showing you directions on where to go. And if we now move on to this analog gauge cluster, as you can see, this particular version is in kilometers. There's also a rev counter and clock over on the right hand side, and your fuel, temperature and outside temperature over on the left hand side. And there's also a screen in the middle which you can control using the steering wheel buttons, where you can cycle through different menus looking at malfunctions, settings, speed, media functions, telephone, navigation directions, driving range and fuel consumption. And moving on to safety, there's cruise control with an integrated speed limiter. You also have stability control, traction control, ABS braking, airbags around the cabin, a rain sensor for the windscreen wipers, automatic headlights with washers to clean the xenons. You also get front and rear parking sensors, and your handbrake is this foot brake, and you release it by pulling on this lever. And finally, storage. Starting off with the glove box, as you can see, that space is relatively okay for this class of vehicle, but it does get eaten up by that owner's manual. You've also got a section here to store a pen or some business cards, and over on the top here, integrated sun visors with integrated vanity mirrors, and the driver's side also has 2 mirrors. You've also got some grab handles over on the top here, and this mirror is electronic and moves around when you adjust your seating position. But the good thing about this compared to a 140, you won't break it if you try to move it, so that is a really nice feature. Over on the seats, you've got 2 little storage compartments, and there's also a storage section over in the middle here. And if I open this up, as you can see, you have an integrated phone holder for a Nokia, and a little coin section to store all your spare change for when you're going through a toll booth. And if I open up the bottom one, more storage that goes down pretty deep, and that is also air conditioned. And finally, on the doors, the pockets aren't really that big, but again, pretty useful for this type of vehicle. Here in the back with this front row seat set in my position, I've got plenty of knee room. Toe room is a little bit tight, and headroom is okay for anyone under 6 foot tall. And to climb into the back seats, all you need to do is pull on these chrome handles, and the seat will electronically move forwards for you. And when you clip it back into place, they're going to go back into the last position saved. Now moving on to other key features, behind the back seats you have these mat pockets. Over in the center, directional air vents, and this button here is to raise and lower the 2 headrests. There are also 2 window switches to roll down both windows, and that is something you can't do on an Aston or a Jaguar. You also get an ashtray down on this lower section. Over on the top here, some hooks for your dry cleaning, a light above me with an integrated parking sensor, and the wood grain also extends to the back, and you've also got leather wrapped grab handles on each side. And looking down towards this section, more wood grain that slides open to reveal additional storage. And finally, looking over here is a flip down leather wrapped armrest with two small cup holders and a spot here for the first aid kit. Now moving on to boot space, so there's a button underneath here to release the boot, and in addition to that, a button on the door, or you can just simply remotely access the boot by using the key fob. Now in terms of capacity back here, you have 450 litres of boot space, which is 50 litres less compared to the W220 S-Class on which the CL is based on, and although it does look quite shallow back here, you do have enough space for two large suitcases and a set of golf clubs, so pretty much perfect for going away on a long trip. And most of the boot is finished off in high quality thick carpet, even on that lower section. Well, aside from this plastic piece over here, you also get tie down points to keep items secure. And if we just take a look at the boot hinges, as you can see, they look pretty remarkable from an engineering perspective. And if I draw your attention to the top here, as you can see, this CL comes with its original warning triangle, and over on the left hand side, the location for the CD changer. And if I lift up the boot floor, as you can see, this generation CL gets a full-size spare tyre. And on that top section, a spare set of fuses. There's also a spare toolkit and a jack. And finally, in this next scene, I've put out all of this car's factory literature, the logbooks, service history, the owner's manuals, and the two remote keys, and everything this car came with when it was delivered brand new by McIntosh and Mossman in 2002. In addition to that, I've also purchased the original sales brochure to add to this car's collection. And it is nice to see that everything comes completely original. And finally, if I shut the boot, as you can see, the boot itself also features the self-closing function like on the doors. Let's now move on to the powertrain. So under the bonnet features a 5-litre naturally aspirated V8 petrol engine, which develops 205 kilowatts and 400 newton meters of torque, and 0 to 100 is in around 5.3 seconds. And this powertrain is paired with a 5-speed Tiptronic automatic transmission that sends power to the rear wheels. And unlike an E or an S430, which features air suspension, all CLs come with active hydraulic suspension, which is referred to by Mercedes as active body control, or in short ABC. And what this system is designed to do is to provide more comfort over bumps. This will also keep the car level in a fast corner, and when you reach high speeds, the system will also lower itself. There's also a sport setting to eliminate body roll, and you can also increase the ride height to clear a steep driveway. Sure, there are accumulators, hydraulic lines and valve blocks, but if you do keep this serviced once in a while, this system is much more reliable compared to the Airmatic system, but it is best to find a CL500 or an S-Class or an SL that is in good condition. And I've owned many Mercedes-Benz models with this particular powertrain and many other versions from the early 2000s, and most of them have been pretty much bulletproof. But that said, if you find one with an up-to-date service history, so if all the specifications out of the way, let's go for a drive. Right, moving on to the driving impressions. Over the bonnet, there's great forward visibility, good side vision, thanks to having no B-pillar. The mirrors are also a decent size, and rear vision is also pretty good. Now, the CL uses a hydraulic steering setup, a rack and pinion hydraulic steering setup, like what you are going to find on any other Mercedes-Benz model from this period. However, on the CL, SL and the S-Class with an ABC suspension system, all of it is all connected to a tandem pump, which means there's hardly any body roll through the corners, and this also handles quite well for a big GT car. And you can also put it into a sport setting to completely eliminate body roll, but in my opinion it doesn't really make much of a difference. But all that technology does make a difference when it comes to refinement, and the suspension will also provide better travel going over really bad surfaces. And if we just pick up speed, makes a fantastic noise. The gearbox also shifts nicely through the ratios. It isn't a performance gearbox, it's not meant to be a sporty gearbox, but it does feel very smooth, but it's also responsive, again, for this age and type of vehicle. And you can also change it from S to W. W is your winter mode, that sets off in second gear, and S is summer, where it sets off normally, and I think that is the best mode to keep the gearbox in. And it's pretty responsive when you put your foot down. 0 to 100 is in around 5 seconds, and that is pretty impressive for a car that came out over 25 years ago. And as you can hear, thanks to the double glazed windows, there's hardly any wind noise coming into the cabin, there's hardly any tyre noise, and the suspension, like I said, at low speeds or high speeds, it soaks up the bumps beautifully, and the cruise control works really well, even the integrated speed limiter. That's very useful for when you're going through tunnels. And it is a car that you can drive long distance, easily over 12 hours without getting tired. And every time I jump into this, I just love driving it. It is so relaxing on a long distance journey and on the open road. And it's also easy to live with around town. You do have a turning circle radius of around 11 meters, and combined with the speed sensitive steering, it's not hard to park or maneuver at all. And in terms of fuel consumption, Mercedes-Benz claimed back in 2002 this was able to achieve on a combined cycle around 12.6 litres per 100. Low speed driving, you'll see figures around 12 to 13 depending on how you drive. However, on the freeway, I have dropped this down to around 7 litres per 100, which I thought was pretty impressive for a car of this age. And it does also use an 88 litre fuel tank, so that fuel will last a very long time. So with my driving impressions out of the way, let's now wrap up with a verdict. So what is my final verdict on the Mercedes CL500? Well, the CL feels very special to drive. They're also ultra comfortable, and look at it this way. This car is only worth around $25,000. For an Aston Martin DB7, they're asking around $50,000 to $60,000. So already the CL500 is cheaper to buy, and compared to maintaining an Aston Martin, the CL is going to be much more affordable, and you can still get parts for a CL as many of the components are shared across other Mercedes-Benz models throughout this period. But the short answer is yes, they're worth it if you buy one in really good condition. But of course, tell me what you think in the comments down below. Would you pick this or something else? And if you haven't already, please like, share, subscribe, and hit the bell. But for now, I will see you in the next film. Thanks for watching.